Aaron Rodgers got traded about 2 months ago, and as soon as he did, you could hear the bottles popping in Detroit, Minnesota, and Chicago because the ghost that had haunted the NFC North for 16 years was finally out of Green Bay. But that left everyone asking the same question. Okay, who is this Jordan Love kid? Is he good? What should we expect from him next year? I'm a Bears fan myself, and I had to know, so I popped some popcorn, I poured myself a beverage, and I turned on Love's tape to start digging. And I actually liked a lot of what I saw. Jordan Love doesn't play an earth-shattering brand of football, but you would be stunned how many young quarterbacks struggle to simply play on time in their offense. And that's Love's bread and butter. He consistently hits the back of his drop and gets the ball out of his hands, throwing with the anticipation needed to attack the middle of the field, an area young quarterbacks typically struggle when throwing into, as well as the arm strength needed to strike outside the numbers. And all of this, by the way, is backed by tape from both Love's NFL reps, of which there are so few that I had to include the preseason, as well as his Utah State tape. So you'll see both sets of film as we break Love down. Love has the hallmark traits of a good West Coast quarterback. He's got a quick release paired with a big arm that makes long throws look easy, like this 58-yard bomb he threw with just the flick of his wrist in college. That arm, plus his anticipation, comes in handy when attacking all levels of the football field, helping him hit the deep 15-yard outs and comeback routes that give weaker-armed quarterbacks trouble, while still staying efficient on timing routes over the middle like digs, slants, and posts. He's got decent pocket sense and fluidly moves away from pressure, both stepping up in the pocket to avoid pressure and drifting laterally as needed, which helps him extend plays from within the pocket while keeping his eyes downfield. He's no Lamar Jackson, but he's athletic and can move a little bit. If the defense doesn't pay any attention to him, he's a threat to run for 6 to 10 yards on read option pulls and open field scrambles, but I don't think he's juking out second level defenders or even outrunning a defensive lineman in pursuit anytime soon. Think very Derek Carr-like mobility. He can get you a first down in a pinch, but his goal on a passing play is always to throw the football, which is by no means a bad thing. I want to reemphasize Love's best trait again, his sense of timing as a drop-back passer. Throws like this frozen rope to Aaron Jones in the Philadelphia game just don't happen if Love isn't willing to trust his eyes, knowing he's read the Eagles' cover 2 defense correctly, and throw the ball at the back of his drop. If Love hesitated at all before throwing this ball, the Eagles' safety would have ranged over and closed the throwing window. So give Love a ton of credit for getting the ball out exactly when he did and giving Aaron Jones what should have been an easy first down catch. Now, Love isn't perfect, but let's talk about his negatives later. You and I both know what I titled this video, and I want to get to the point. So let's look at Love's Philly game again from a slightly different perspective. Sure, Jordan Love made some stellar throws in his 9 attempts, like the throw to Aaron Jones we've already talked about, this play action strike over the middle that comes out right on time, hits Watson in stride, and allows the receiver to leg out a long touchdown, this third down throw to Allen Lazard where the ball comes out with perfect timing once again and meets Lazard as he's coming out of his break, and another strike to Watson where Love starts throwing the ball well before Watson clears the underneath backer to create a nice first down completion. 4 noteworthy throws, just 9 attempts. That's great. But as of the recording of this video, this guy, and the Packers' best run blocking tight end, Mercedes Lewis, aren't on the team anymore, and they've all been replaced by, rookies. They're talented rookies. Jaden Reed should be a dynamic weapon all over the formation. Tucker Kraft is an underrated all-around athlete that should handle any role in time. Luke Musgrave, even Dontavion Wicks and Grant Dubose showed a little wiggle at Senior Bowl practices this year and make for fun projects as outside receivers. But losing those vets takes 198 games of experience, both starting tight ends, 44% of the Packers' 2022 receiving yardage, and 41.5% of the 2022 targets out of the Packers' offensive locker room. And if you remember that Devontae Adams only just left last year, this means the entire Packers skill position group, one that had been consistently together since Matt LaFleur got hired in 2019, has been exchanged over the last 2 years for a group of inexperienced, albeit talented, rookies and sophomores. That's who Jordan Love will be making his first impression as a starter with, not the stalwart core of veterans that helped Aaron Rodgers win back-to-back MVPs just 2 years ago. But so what, right? The new guys are good. who's to say they won't be just as good or better than the aging and injured veterans they're replacing? And that's the thing, they will be better in 2024 and beyond, but in 2023, they're probably going to make mistakes, and those mistakes are going to cost the Packers downs. The biggest difference between rookies and veterans is every down consistency and the precision with which they play. When a rookie gets asked to run an 8-yard out route, will they consistently run it at 8 yards and come out of their break in time with the quarterback's drop? Or will they throw an extra move into the top of their route to shake their corner and, in so doing, throw off their route's timing and create an incompletion when the quarterback throws to where the receiver was supposed to be? Football is an extremely precise game. If the quarterback constantly waits to see what his receiver does, he'll never get through his progressions and he's liable to get sacked. But if the quarterback throws with anticipation and his receiver doesn't make the same adjustment, the ball falls incomplete, and from the broadcast angle, the quarterback just looks inaccurate. We saw this a lot in Love's 2022 preseason. Here, Romeo Doubs beat his man deep with an inside release, prompting Love to throw straight up the seam, but Doubs faded out to the sidelines because he wanted distance away from the safety and the ball fell incomplete. Neither guy was wrong per se, but their miscommunication cost them a first down, maybe even a touchdown, and ultimately leads to a failed third down conversion just 2 downs later. There's plenty more examples of little mistakes just like this throughout that preseason, ranging from Love throwing back shoulder balls to receivers that didn't adjust on key downs, to Love and his running backs looking seemingly incapable of figuring out which shoulder the ball needs to be on for checkdowns, to bad deflections off open throws that ended up in the defense's hands, to receivers not separating on deep comeback routes leading to yet more incompletions, to unceremonious drops, though every quarterback deals with that. These mistakes are normal and they take time to iron out, but they usually aren't fully fixed by the end of training camp. For instance, in the Packers' Week 1 game against the Vikings last year, where they scored just 7 points against what ended up being the 27th ranked defense in the NFL by DVOA, rookie Christian Watson dropped a wide open touchdown pass on the first play of the game, and on third down later that series, fellow rookie Romeo Doubs ran a route Rodgers didn't expect and ended up forcing the Pack's first punt of the game. Doubs also looked a bit lost as a run blocker throughout the contest, again, his first NFL football game, and as the Packers tried to save the game late, Watson didn't get his head around in time for a throw on 3rd and 1 and almost led to a game-losing interception. Again, these mistakes are normal for rookies in the NFL, and I'm picking on these two because they've got bright futures ahead of them and also illustrate the inconsistency we should expect from the Packers' 2023 receiving group. Looking once more at last year's Packers, is it any surprise that they went from averaging only 17.1 points per game in the first half of the year to averaging a whopping 27 points per game in the back half when Christian Watson found his stride in the offense? Adjusting to the NFL takes time for rookies, and the biggest issue for Jordan Love is that I'm not sure time is something he has a ton of. Love's rookie deal ends this year, and due to Aaron Rodgers' antics, he's not yet taken the lumps that a first-year starter usually takes. If he only makes a lukewarm impression due to inexperienced pass catchers in his own first-year starter growing pains, what will Packers fans say going into a 2024 draft where they'll likely have 2 first-round picks? Would you extend Jordan Love over drafting UNC's Drake May or Texas's Quinn Ewers? And speaking of Love's growing pains, we're not done with his breakdown yet. He's got some traits that'll likely lead to more offensive sputters, and when they do, I can't imagine Twitter and the rest of the NFL is going to be kind to him. Specifically, the red flags I see are how skittish he gets under pressure, especially if he gets hit a few times early, which led to ugly throws off his back foot in his start against Kansas City where his accuracy really suffered. Occasionally, he'll throw the ball with no lower base at all, whether he's in the pocket or out of the pocket, and at times this can lead to huge completions amidst pressure. But this can also lead to a forced throw that leaves you wondering, why on earth did you do that, Jordan? I wouldn't be surprised if, as teams scheme him up, defenses will put Love in position to force out these throws, which could lead to some nasty turnovers if Love doesn't get things under control. He's got semi-random misfires at all levels of the field, often due to spotty footwork, that can turn what should have been a layup into an incompletion. He's not afraid of tight window throws either, which usually is a good trait until Love throws a predetermined ball over the middle that sees his naturally quick throwing trigger work against him, or forces a throw into deep double coverage to close out a half. He didn't like this video or subscribe to the channel, which is a massive red flag if you ask me. He's definitely not as accurate throwing on the run as he seems to think he is. He was better at this while in school and made some really nice throws on the run, but he's left the ball high, low, and wide at the NFL level so far, and we really don't know how he will handle moments of adversity. We haven't seen him in back-to-back games. Plus, it doesn't help that Philly's defense exclusively played Love with a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter, but when he's made mistakes in the preseason, he tended to play the next series a bit gun-shy. I'm picking nits and I know it, so don't overstate the negatives, but Love's first-year bumps in the road, combined with his receivers' inexperience, could create a messy passing attack in the opening weeks of the season. A very strong offensive line and rushing attack should keep play action viable for the Packers while setting up manageable third downs throughout games, but every rushing attack eventually runs into a holding call or a first down run stuff, and I'm just curious how many passing play calls LaFleur will have on his play sheet that don't rely on rookies, but get the Packers back ahead of the chains. You've got to imagine Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs will be expected to shoulder the lion's share of this offense in only their second years. But if one or both doesn't take that next step, or if injuries creep in, Jordan Love is going to get thrown out there with, sure, a very good offensive line and strong running game, and a bunch of 22 and 23-year-olds with just a few weeks of training camp and early season practice under their belt. That's not a great recipe for any quarterback's success. And it doesn't help that Love also has to battle with some totally unfair expectations that some folks seem to have of him. We're already seeing the sharks in the NFL media set Jordan Love for a quote-unquote fall with pull quotes like Romeo Doubs, not seeing the big difference between Love and a first ballot Hall of Famer, and Jair Alexander calling Love the best quarterback in the league. But Rodgers just threw for 3,700 yards and 26 touchdowns in a down year. Who's catching those yards for Love next season? Walk through a statistical thought experiment with me. Let's say the Packers receivers all have objectively good years. Meaning, Christian Watson makes the jump to a standout wide receiver 1, Romeo Doubs asserts himself as a solid wide receiver 2, Jaden Reed hits the ground running, producing like a normal second-round wide receiver in a wide receiver 3 role, Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft both produce like mid-second round starting rookie tight ends, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon turn in very good receiving seasons based on their career averages, and somehow absolutely nobody gets hurt, meaning the backup receivers and tight ends only contribute a scattered 100 yards combined. This totals up to around 3,450 yards and 202.9 passing yards per game, which would put Love just ahead of Daniel Jones as last year's 25th most productive passer in football and well short of Aaron Rodgers' 3,700 yards and 217.4 yards per game. Obviously, this is just a mock yardage projection, but it's right in line with Vegas's prop bet season totals, which opened with Love at 3,400.5 passing yards, 22.5 touchdowns, and 13.5 interceptions, but have since dropped to 3,200.5 passing yards with the same touchdowns and interceptions. If Love only just achieves Vegas projections, say he throws for 3,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions, is that a good enough year to warrant committing to him? Or does he need to surpass Rodgers' numbers from last year to garner that kind of faith? And then, only making matters worse, Love recently said this about his Week 1 opponents.
Happy Father's Day to all the Bears fans out there. Go Pack, go.
And if that Bears game doesn't go his way, I can guarantee you Bears fans are not going to care that Jordan Love was just doing something nice for a Bears fan, and they're going to dunk on him for weeks. But speaking of the Bears game, if Love has a saving grace this year, it's his schedule to start the season. In his first 5 games, he plays a defensive line that, while they just added Yannick Ngakoue, Andrew Billings, and Gervon Dexter this offseason, is still probably the worst defensive line in the NFC North until they prove otherwise, meaning less pressure from the pocket and plenty of opportunity for the Packers to run the ball. 3 teams with new starting quarterbacks, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Las Vegas, that the Packers' loaded on paper defense should be able to mitigate, and a home game against the odds-on division favorite that won't yet have first-round receiver Jameson Williams back in the lineup. So you never know. Love, the defense, and the rushing attack might just scrape out enough points to win a few early games as their young receivers get their feet under them. But we'll have to wait and see before we go making predictions. To wrap this up, I can't say enough about how much I like what the Packers have done this offseason. They offloaded Rodgers for current and future draft capital and immediately reinvested in offensive weapons that now have a chance to gel together and create a formidable offensive core for 2024 and beyond. They've got talent on their defensive line, a wonderful mix of veterans and youth on offensive line, likely 2 first-round picks next year, and tons of cap space opening up in 2025. This is great news for the green and gold faithful, but in theory, it's even better news for a rookie quarterback drafted next May that would land in a phenomenal offensive system with seasoned teammates in a situation that wouldn't force him to play any sooner than he was ready. Add in that the rookie's contract would mean 5 cheap years of quarterback play, whereas Jordan Love will need a new contract as soon as the season after next, and I just can't help wondering what Love would reasonably have to do to cement himself as the Packers' long-term option. Maybe Matt LaFleur and these rookies blow my expectations out of the water and give Love a situation he can truly thrive in. Who knows? There's so much we don't know right now, like whether the Packers plan to start 1, 2, or 0 rookies in their 12 personnel sets on week 1. But if the rookies do struggle, and if one of the sophomore receivers doesn't take that dramatic next step, and if Jordan Love ends up putting together a just okay overall year in his first season as a starter, who will Packers fans blame? My guess is that Love is all they'll need. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I love deep dives just like this, so comment below what you think of the video because I'm happy to keep the discussion going as we talk about what this 2023 Packers season is really going to look like. If you've got the time, please like the video. That helps more than you'd ever know, and share this with your friends. Let's blow this channel up together. And until next time, thanks so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.